everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we're going to be doing theories for RIGINARAZIONE.
It's me, Mario!
I still don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I suppose I'll find out when the episode airs. And speaking of, I have scheduled this video for Monday at 2 PM, my usual time, 2 PM British time. However, I have instructed Ahmed, he's the one who makes all the memes, and if you're in my Discord server, he's possibly also your dad for some reason. I've asked him to keep an eye on RTS, as I'm at work this weekend, and if they once again decide to air the episode without telling anyone over the weekend, again, Ahmed has instructions to make the video public early. So if you're seeing this video on the weekend and not on Monday, that means the episode is out. But if you're seeing this on Monday, it means we have survived the RTS sudden episode release. Like RTS, you literally can't be doing this. It's going to put me in an early grave.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Anyway, the episode. In my opinion, I do think it's fairly straightforward from the screenshots we've got. When the trailer released, though, I was like, they're celebrating 150 years of something. And half the comments are like, Hayes, it's 150th episode. Besties, I know, but I don't think at a point in the episode Marinette's going to turn and look at the camera and be like, hey, it's the 150th episode of the show we're all in, guys. I don't think they're going to go quite meta like that just yet, or actually ever with the show. Like, I would love it if she did that, but, you know, I doubt she's going to do that. So the in-show 150 reason, I'm assuming it's not a birthday, but perhaps it's 150 years of baking in the family, assuming Tom's granddad, Roland's dad, also owned the bakery, and that would also play into the death theme they seem to have going on this episode if the person who started all this off is no longer alive. But if that's the case, it does seem a little bit odd that Roland isn't there to help celebrate that, but again, the episode does perhaps seem to be about him maybe dying, so, you know, that does explain why he's not there. Anyway, so the whole family but Roland is there. We've got Tom, Sabine, and then Gina eating her cookies, and Marinette is like, where is my granddad? So she goes to see Roland. However, it does seem there's something wrong with him, which Tom knows about. He knows why he's not there, isn't Roland. So when Marinette goes to convince him to come to the family day, everyone is like, so Tom, are you going to tell her? But I don't think Gina knows exactly what's going on, as we see her rather angrily leave the house. At Roland's, Marinette has already arrived. Now, he does look visually okay. I know he has a blanket on him, but I do spend 80% of my waking hours and nighttime hours, actually sleeping hours, under a blanket, including at work. Yes, I did buy a blanket the other day for the staff room, because it's freezing in that. So does Roland perhaps have a terminal illness that he's recently been diagnosed with? Or maybe he's just like, I'm not as able-bodied anymore, because, you know, I'm just getting older, and that's just a thing that eventually happens to, you know, the vast majority of people. So he tells Marinette, you know, he's just getting physically too old to be doing stuff. And Marinette spends this episode basically coming to terms with her granddad, who she hasn't really known for very long, maybe dying. And he signals him going by giving her this thing, which a lot of people think it's yeast, and maybe it is, I'm not sure. I do bake a lot, but I usually use active dry yeast when I use bread, which is usually granulated. This looks quite solid, but yeast can be compacted like this as well. So I'm not 100% confident, but it might be. He's just casually given Marinette his sourdough starter. However, Marinette isn't ready to accept this, and she runs away down an alley. She transforms as she's running, gets far away, and when she lands, she de-transforms, and she is crying. They're really enjoying torturing Marinette this season, don't they? Meanwhile, Gina arrives at Roland's, shouts at him, and demands he has fun. Just what we all need when we're dying. But I think they reach a compromise and decide to do whatever their plans are at Roland's, so he doesn't have to move too much. So Marinette, once calm, gets changed, and they head to Roland's, and I'm assuming Adrian also turns up since he's got a shirt, but also Tom isn't wearing a shirt, so I don't know. However, at the party, I don't know what it is exactly, Roland has a moment, and Gina sees just how ill Roland is. Like, she might have known before, but she didn't really understand how ill he was. And she's not a fan of that. Marinette also gets upset after seeing this and spends time with Adrian, who comforts her. Meanwhile, Gina gets akumatized. I do think she's still at Roland's when it happens, judging by the awful decorations around her, and Roland is her first victim. And with that being said, I think most of us has guessed by now that the Akuma is related to Roland's age, so Gina is basically akumatized into pink Befana. It's very similar in terms of look-wise, and she also gets around the city in seemingly a very similar way as in Befana, and her projectiles this time either make you advance in age, as we see in Older Ladybug, or they make you younger, as we see with Roland and his awful hairstyle, and my new son, Baby Cat Noir, or Kitten Noir, his new name.
I've only had Arlo for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Very violent eulogy, I like it.
So I think Gina turns Roland young first and takes him with her on this Akuma venture, while she turns everyone else younger or older. And like most Akumas this season, they have been largely non-violent. Lila really frames these Akumas as her helping the Akuma victim rather than making them into villains, much like Gabriel did. So like she's just helping people to become what they want. For example, a child who wants to already grow up, or maybe an adult who's like, you know, take me back, I want to be a little bit younger please. And Ladybug and Cat Noir are framed as the aggressors. However, of course, not everyone will be fine with this, such as this car that seems to swerve or perhaps go out of control, because maybe Gina's turned the driver into a baby. So Cat Noir sticks his baton in a building to try and get it to stop, but of course he can't really move very much whilst he's trying to do that. So Gina hits him and he turns into a baby. I'm so excited. However, I think Ladybug could perhaps get turned first and she gets turned to older and she rescues him. Now, does he get into the metro himself? Perhaps, like him just crawling around. I think he could be doing that. And she has to grab him because one, he's a baby and he doesn't know what's going on. And two, even though he's a baby, he does still have the Miraculous. So I am assuming there's going to be no cataclysm in this episode because he's a baby. We also know Ladybug gets hit again, so I'm assuming if Cat Noir gets hit again, we'll be seeing a feather. That'll be fun. But ultimately, it'll be okay. I'm not really sure how they're going to defeat Gina, but we know they do defeat Gina. But as my friend Ahmed said to me the other day, if Gina making Roland young temporarily saves him from whatever it is that's harming him, Marinette or Ladybug doing the lucky charm to undo it all basically starts killing him again, which is basically the biggest yikes on a bike I've ever seen. She's going to feel terrible by the end of this episode. And speaking of, I think the episode ends with Gina in Brazil. We know Gina liked to travel, like she was absent for so long from Marinette's life because she was always travelling. But now Roland is dying, it does seem like an odd thing to do. To like, yeah, I'm going to Brazil, not like I'm going to Germany, which is relatively close to France, or, you know, Spain, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Belgium, you know what I mean? A relatively close country. She's like, no, I'm going all the way to Brazil with his mice. I am not sure why. Did Roland say, like, Gina, my wonderful ex-wife, it is my dying wish that you take my mice to see my granddaughter's ex-boyfriend? I don't know. Is Luca even in Rio? I'm not actually sure whereabouts in Brazil Luca actually is. But basically, it's an episode about death. I can't wait. I'm actually looking forward to it. I have a PhD in suicide, so I do actually find death quite fascinating. I know there's something wrong with me. You have to have something wrong with you to want to do a PhD in suicide. Someone's got to research it. It may as well be me. And everyone else is also interested. Anyway, besties, that's what I think is going to happen in the episode. If it hasn't aired yet, I'm looking at you, RTS. I'd love to know what you think, and I will see you in the next one.